carry computers anymore, they carry their phone with them. And I feel eventually the next step will be a person will just go in, whether they scan their fingerprint or they somehow, some other way of authenticate themselves. The person really becomes the computer, and it really is about the person and the person inside. And that's the information and everything is enabled through the cloud and through the larger infrastructure.
What's really going to be big versus, what is, kind of destined for the trash heap.
The next big thing, it continues to be in your hand, which is the mobile handset. And it's going to be that way for a long, long time. There's a lot of innovation that's coming.
The next big idea is often in being able to react quickly to opportunities. People are kind of losing track of their own lives. And so there's also huge opportunity in what I'm seeing for apps and products that are streamlining what matters most to you in your life and almost making you a better human.
I think as a general theme, you're going to continue to see evolutions about creating apps that are going to be about making people's lives easier.
We're looking at the next wave. It's more on a consumer thin client, where the device, you could literally throw it in a bathtub and it would be completely okay because nothing's stored on that device. So for us, it's about managing that data, that personal data, and the security that's around it.
You take your app, go to a theater, you check in for the movie that you want to see. It will unlock your debit card and it allows you to purchase a ticket to that show.
If you're generally over 34, and I'm over 34, then generally you are what they call a digital immigrant. So the digital natives and digital immigrants.
How did the idea to merge video games and education come about for you?
Well, have you ever watched a new child or a kid on a video game, new video game? What do? They play for 5 minutes, then they fail. And they'll do that 100 times. Now when they started, they knew nothing about the world, nothing about the universe, nothing about the tools that were necessary to succeed at the problems. And yet every step along the way, they failed, picked themselves back up, and went at it again. All of this energy and potential be taken and used towards algebra, chemistry, etc. And the answer is it can. You take the format and place it into the educational realm.
Looking at what do you need to see in order to look at me as a candidate?
What I'm looking for is a track record. What I'm looking for is success and how you deliver it. Think about the business that you're trying to get a job at. What are their challenges and how do you accelerate their growth?
And our video business is the core of our revenue, and so people that bring that experience and that understand how to translate between TV and digital, that's a really important skill set for us.
And anyone in the digital world is reinventing because the roles probably don't exist. And if they do exist, they haven't existed for very long. So we're all struggling to do something new and innovative with a limited talent pool.
So the first thing I'd like to ask you is that you talk about the intersection of technology and the work that you do.
There's this very false perception about the digital divide in low-income communities. It does not exist. Tech innovation exists, as always really existed in our communities, but giving people an opportunity to see that we've got the kind of community that supports it and loves it and gives it a chance to grow and flourish.
Talk about their relationships with clients and how they're either changing, how it's transformed, or where you see it moving forward.
The way brands need to go to market or communicate has evolved. Brands need to act rather than just communicate with people or just communicate a message or put out a TV ad.
There's infinite ways to tell stories, and the biggest thing that our clients are asking us to do is to invent new ways, using new technologies and reaching people in different ways than just interrupting them on these new technologies.
Kleenex first launched, it was like, it's a disposable face towel. And then basically everyone was using it as a disposable handkerchief, which, was funny. And then they were like, well, oh, okay. And they just changed what they said it did. It didn't change anything about the product. And lo and behold, Kleenex is now, a very, very dominant player. But that's a very old school example of something that now happens all the time, right? When IKEA asks you to assemble your furniture, they're earning value out of you, right? I mean, they've just kind of outsourced that cost.
In my agency life, I found that a lot of the work that we were producing was customer facing. It's from the customer's point of view, it's everything on the screen and what they click and how they do it. But the dream for me was always about service design, 360 design. How do we get into user experience and usability issues behind the screen? 50% of what I do now is help to provide services for the advertising industry. So we help them with their projects. And they're similar to what I'm speaking about and what I've done throughout my career. But the other 50% is super, super exciting. Working with startups, working with app development, mobile companies, working with some of these service design issues, some of the CMS systems, all these kinds of interfaces behind the screen.
There's always a conversation about the change in demographics and 20, whatever it is. There's going to be more diverse populations, and so how come companies are not getting it? Wanted to get your take on how those two things will continue to be separate, or where there's an overlap regarding data when it comes to diversity.
For that, problem is to combine sort of cultural strategies and behavioral strategies together. I think when you're telling the story or messaging a particular solution, then you have to know that audience, whether it's an attitudinal group or ethnic group, in order to be relevant to that group. The perfect blend is creating something that's functional, but then expressing it in very relative and relevant ways to different audiences.
What do you think are the next big trends in technology? Where are the opportunities going to be?
The trend is toward knowing and preparing for that technology is going to move across multiple devices, what we call the end screen. Where is that screen? Well, the next screen could be on your wrist, it could be glass, it could be in the car, it could be your refrigerator. I mean, there's just going to be so many things that will be connected and will be a new screen.
I'd like to get some of your perspectives on, in 2013, what is your idea of multicultural for your particular organization and brand?
And so I, again, oversee international, right? So multicultural for me is everywhere. I mean, some markets were emerging and they can't even spell Marriott. They don't have to say Marriott. So it's really a lot of brand awareness and focusing on markets pretty much everywhere.
At HBO, I have to say, they've been pretty ahead of the curve always in understanding the importance of multicultural audiences. I would argue that a lot of our great content that came from HBO was based on multicultural audiences. Latino, we were the first to launch and still the only Spanish language premium channel that exists. I have no competition in that space with HBO Latino. And the question now is how do we amplify that? How do we make sure that we stay ahead given all the competitive, because everybody else woke up to it?
I really went back to how I was raised, and a lot of it was really phenomenal programming where I could watch television with my brothers, my sister, even my mother, and a lot of this great content that used to exist doesn't anymore. Basically, it's colorblind content, and brands and advertisers, really into it. So I think it's just really raising that awareness that you can really have a platform online and really extend that reach.
About what's currently happening is people are starting to realize that, like, oh, Black people are online. And it's like, yes, we've been there the whole time. We use it disproportionately. But now people are starting to come to me more as a content creator and say, well, can you write about this? We don't know anything about that. We know you know about that. So can you write about that? And I'm like, well, finally, thank you.
I want to talk about Asians. I want to talk about Latinos because Latinos and African Americans are so close. How can you not? And for Coco, we're Black women, so we're, that's what we've done. But, I'm not just 100% Black. So for me, I want to talk about my Indian heritage. I want to talk about my Irish heritage. I just want to talk about everything.
But we're trying to create a platform that we can essentially make dynamic and flexible enough so no matter where you are, you can customize it and get the content, the payment structures and mechanisms that you want on the device that you want at the time that you want. And we're also starting to connect them more with our hotels. People stay in our hotels, and that's our opportunity really to connect with them digitally. You can imagine a world where you may be able to open your door with your phone. Be careful not to lose your phone, but you can open your door with your phone, right? I mean, so we're literally connecting our digital experience in our hotel with the consumer.
There's a little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let your light shine. Let your light shine. When it comes to all of us working or wanting to work in the healthcare technology space, if you don't remember anything from us this afternoon during this session, please remember that in all you do, let your light shine. Wanted to see if anyone wanted to dive into an overview of the business opportunities as it relates to healthcare technology for entrepreneurs and beyond.
I kind of see this as the convergence between the digital world and the healthcare world.
At Blaze, we are all about convenience, and so we're focusing on 3 chronic illnesses, diabetes and high blood pressure. And so when you put on the blood pressure device, rather than writing down the reading, you can simply hold your cell phone in proximity to it and it captures the reading, and more importantly, can send the information to your physician in real time. And the feedback we've gotten from doctors has just been incredible. Like, I thought maybe they would be overwhelmed by the amount of data. They said, no, we want to hear that. We want the data. We want to see when a patient is going above the threshold levels so that we can call them, we can adjust their medication, and we can prevent them from coming back into our office or worse yet, into the ER room.
So what Michelle is doing is so brilliant, and it's so critical to our ability to determine what the patient's chronic home blood pressure monitoring is. And that data is what we can actually use to intervene therapeutically. Mobile phones are so important. There are a couple of times I've made diagnoses based on mobile phones.
So I get videos all the time. Parents come to say, you see this rash? Or they'll send me a text to say, can you look at this? Can you tell me what this is over the phone? So that's a part of what we do, because the parents that I see are that Generation X, and the people who are coming are Generation Y, who are the millennials who are becoming the new parents. So there's an expectation of communication and interaction with me via mobile and via electronic means that is very different from the adult patient who is very much a digital immigrant and needing to learn this process. So it gives us an insight into where we're going.
When I'm thinking about technology and how do we enable folks, and especially as we're looking at these things aging in place, and so we've started to create content to really help enable folks to get comfortable on how do they leverage this technology to do a lot of these great things and not be afraid of it, but really embrace it and not feel like, hey, this is for a different generation, but this new advanced technology is something that I can leverage in my day-to-day life to enable me to do these things.
And we have this great opportunity in pediatrics to train people, train kids to come up using technology and innovation to manage their health and to keep track of their health. But then on the other end, we have to think about where people are when they're aging in place and who actually is our target. Is our target the patient, or is our target the caregiver? And what does that mean about how we change what we develop when we're talking about technology and content?